Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 30th, and right now we're looking at the infrared satellite imagery. You can see that upper level low spinning down across California. Lightning strikes associated with that may be working their way up across some of the Intermountain West today, including places like Idaho, maybe towards the Oregon border, up into Montana here as well. If you look back across some of western Alaska, the Aleutian Islands, this is the next system here. It's going to ride over the top of this ridge and come down across the region here. And we've got some model discrepancy on just how much precipitation we're going to get out of that storm. So we'll go ahead and look at that. But then we've got a big ridge developing after that as well. So this is kind of the start of the ridge here. That system will ride over it, and then we're going to build the ridge here across the area. And we could potentially warm up here nicely across the region. We'll take a look at that here in a moment. And if you want to record all this crazy weather we get here in the Pacific Northwest, go ahead and click on that link down below to save 10% off this very affordable home weather station. Now, this hasn't been updated for Seattle yesterday, at least I tried a minute ago here and it was not updating. So we'll just have to skip that one today. But check this out. Saturday afternoon, gusty north winds. We talked about this Okanagan River gap here. You can see OMAC, 30 mile per hour wind gust possible. Total wind gusts up towards 35 miles per hour. So heads up for that if you're out and about across some of eastern Washington. This is looking at the 80 meter wind speeds, and you can kind of see that terrain feature that is the Okanagan gap here. And you can kind of see those winds coming down there. Nice cold air conduit up into British Columbia. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. And then the next system starts to arrive here. As you can see, some southerly wind response in advance of that storm system there. And then we're going to bring an interesting convergence zone across some of the central Puget Sound potentially also. We'll look at that in a little bit of detail coming up. Check it out for Medford, Oregon here. You can see a nice graphic here for some sneaker wave activity. And yeah, every year somebody gets caught in these waves. So heads up for that up and down the coastline. Pretty much once you get into fall and winter months here, you can kind of you can bet on some sneaker wave activity. I would just never turn your back on the ocean if you're out there this time of year. And you can see Pendleton, Oregon. There are some dense fog advisories out there for some of the Blue Mountains, and you can see, slow down when your visibility is reduced. You guys know the drill. This is looking at composite reflectivity, the NAM3KM. Check it out. The spin in the atmosphere, that wraparound moisture working its way back up into Idaho. Could get some heavier showers, some thunderstorm activity, even some snow for the higher terrain as this chilly upper level low spins across the Intermountain West. And then you can see the arrival of the next system start to approach from the northwest here. It's not a very strong frontal system, but it should bring some precip and, of course, some clouds as it moves down across the area during the day Monday. Then there's convergence zone possibility on in through Monday night for some of the western Washington areas. If we take a look at this here, this is 500 millibar heights here. This is the European. There goes our upper level load there. Ridge briefly noses in here. Then we get that system coming over the top of the ridge. Then we try to build that ridge. Another weak system moves through British Columbia here. Then look at this ridge just kind of build up here. This is last night's European run here with quite a strong ridge. We have to watch this time of year though. However, as we start to build these ridges, we can start to trap some of that moist air down in the valley areas and get some radiational cooling and develop some fog. But we can get some nice days here at the same time. So we'll be watching that here over the next few days. This is looking at 700 millibar temperatures. This is another way to look at what's coming here. So you can see that upper level low here. It kind of gets cut off. You can kind of see the temperatures here get cut off, and then the system rides over the top of the ridge, re-emerges that energy, and then kicks it off to the east. And then you can see that ridge developing here, the much warmer temperatures aloft coming up across the Pacific Northwest there. And then as we go on through the extended forecast in the European, you can kind of see that cold air returning to the Gulf of Alaska, potentially storm track moving back into the Pacific Northwest. Still a ways out there. We'll watch it closely. Here's the GFS. There goes our upper level low. There's Washington State. There's Alaska. There's British Columbia. The Pacific Ocean, Gulf of Alaska here. Ridge noses in. System rides over the top of the ridge, comes back down. And then we really build this massive ridge here according to the GFS. So that's what got that concern for some fog developing here. But if you're not in the foggy areas, or you getting kind of elevation rise, you're probably going to be in some nice weather here as we really calm things down for a bit. But as you can see, once we move towards the October 8th timeframe here, look at the Gulf of Alaska, it gets roaring again here, and we may start to bring some more systems into the west coast of North America, and we'll be watching that, of course, as always, as we go day by day. This is looking at the GFS. So I showed this map on the right here, the 500 millibar heights, where you see the ridging here. That's where the atmosphere is thicker versus thinner here. So it's colder. And you can kind of see that in the temperature here at 500 millibars on the right. You see the colder air and the warmer air associated with the ridge. So if we put that into motion, you can kind of see that moving across here, and you can see that next system moving through British Columbia, and then the big ridge develops, and you can see all that warm air aloft here moving across Pacific Northwest, highlighted by that ridge here on the right. So if you're kind of wondering what exactly those heights mean, that is the thickness of the atmosphere. Now, taking a look at the Seattle Tacoma European, look at this as we go through next week and we make it a nice weekend out of this, provided we don't get too much fog here. We got a ways to go here, so we'll be watching this coming up. But, nice signs for a ridge coming up here as we go through the end of next week. This is the GFS, also showing something similar for SeaTac Airport. Sometimes these models have a hard time picking up just who's going to get what kind of fog, though. Look at the GFS with this next system that rolls through here as we go through the day Monday, not showing too much precipitation for SeaTac, and then you can see as we go further off into the October 9th, 10th time frame here, the potential return for some storm systems after a break with that ridge setting up shop overhead. This is Bellingham on the GFS. It's a little bit better signal here, and then you can see the potential return of storms as we look way off into the future. This is out towards the coastline here, Hoquiam. You can see a little bit better chance here, but still not a lot, not a big rainmaker here, folks. This system's going to be a bit precipitation starved. This is Seattle Tacoma, though. Look at the European. The control run had over 4/10 of an inch here. Definitely wetter here, according to the European, as we go through the day and the night Monday with the potential convergence zone setting up somewhere across western Washington. Also, this is last night, and you can see that system as we go through the day Monday. Break with the ridge setting up shop here, and then the potential return to some active weather here as we go towards the mid portion of October. Here's Boise dealing with that upper level low and that wraparound moisture. Check it out. The control run up over 4/10 of an inch in a 24-hour period. And again, some of the higher peaks be dealing with some chilly temperatures and some potential snowfall even as well. This is Helena, Montana. You can see multiple rounds of some precipitation with that upper level low moving across the area. Now looking at the excuse me, the European on the left versus the GFS on the right. This is yesterday afternoon's run. You can see the upper level low spinning, pretty good model agreement with that and the timing of that system. Then the next one starts to come down here, and you can see the European a little bit wetter with that system as it moves down across the area versus the GFS here on the right. But both of them have that kind of convergence zone signature across some of the central Cascades here and maybe some of the central Puget Sound. You can see a little bit of difference in some of the timing between the European and the GFS there. And then another weak system goes through British Columbia, and then we're really going to dry things out as we look off into next weekend here, and you can kind of see that reflected there. But it looks like it's speeding up the timing of maybe the additional systems here according to the GFS, and then you can see the European eventually bring it in there at 240 hours. Still fantasy at this point for the return of the storm track. This is looking at 100-meter wind speeds. If I put this into motion, I want to kind of show you what's going on here. So you can see the north winds we've got there in the Okanagan River Gap even showing up on the European run. But as we go through the day Monday, you can see the southerly response to the next system coming, and then you can see the surge down the Strait of Juan de Fuca through the Chehalis Gap, meeting somewhere in the central Puget Sound here, and that would be that convergence zone signature as we go through Monday night, and then we start to get that northwest wind as that system moves off to the east. Now, looking at total snow ratio in inches here in the European, last night's run, you can see some of the Rocky Mountains, some of the higher terrain of Idaho, Nevada, Wyoming, and maybe Yellowstone if you guys are up in the backcountry there. Heads up, chilly upper level low, and you guys probably see all the clouds out there already. So if you're heading off to the portions off to the east, it's not too bad. You're not expecting snowfall across the Cascades, but the further you go towards the Intermountain West, the better chances you're going to get over the next couple of days. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. You can clearly see this above average signal here, highlighting that ridge's return here as we go through October 5th through 9th, and this is the 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook here. This would be before that next pattern change potentially developing across the Gulf of Alaska. But yeah, you can see below average signal all the way through October 9th. Here's the 8 to 14 day, the above average signal, but then you can kind of see that return for some above average precipitation chances here as we go through October 7th through the 13th with maybe the return of the storm track into the region. Here is 3 to 4 week temperature outlook. This was issued on September 29th. This goes through mid-October to late October, and you can clearly see the above average signal here across the west, but we don't have any special precipitation signal associated with that. This is Pacific North American Oscillation positive, where the storms are out here across the Gulf of Alaska, and that looks like what we had in some of the European and the GFS, right, in the extended. So we can also check this out in the Pacific North American Oscillation European run. So you can also see that positive value here, meaning that storm track is going to be out over the Pacific Ocean here as we go through mid-October, most likely. Kind of interesting there. But yeah, here we go. That next system will be here, and I always tend to kind of hedge towards what the European says here, so we're probably going to get some precipitation out of that system. Then we're going to start to dry out and potentially a nice weekend coming up, and we'll try to pinpoint down some details on just how foggy we may get here across the area. And a lot of times you can get pretty foggy down towards the surface, like for Western Washington, some of the Willamette Valley, the valleys in BC. But once you get some elevation, you get out of that soup and you can get some nice warm days this time of year. So we'll watch that closely. We'll watch that extended storm track as well. And hope you guys are liking these videos. Click like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.